Well, hello, CNC brothers and sisters. You notice I don't have our sister Kate sitting next to me right now. We got our brother Mark Lindsay once again. I don't know how he keeps falling into our camera. Say hello, Mark. Say hello to the crowd.
Hey y'all, what's going on? Good to see you.
Yeah. So it's another CNC Wednesday night hangout. I'm Garrett with IDC Woodcraft, and you all know Mark, the famous y'all. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, we don't have like a major agenda to cover tonight as far as stuff. So we'll just answer questions as they roll in and shoot the bull and chew the CNC fat and what have you. Yeah, Kate is out with family obligations tonight, so her daughter is doing some kind of event. I can't remember what it was, but so Mark so kindly said, "Yeah, I'll step in," after he checked with the boss.
Yeah, got you.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have the division of labor down pat. Say she's plans, operations, and finance. I'm transportation and labor, and we get along just fine that way.
Transportation labor.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah. That's there's something I've always heard is men wear the pants in the family when their wives let them.
Yeah. Well,
So yeah. All right, let's say hello to some friends out there. So Jack in the shop has checked in 6 hours ago, and I don't know. I released this yesterday, so I'm sure there are some others, but he's showing up 6. So hey, Jack. Oz said he may be watching, may not. And we've got Billy McGee and hello, brother Bill and Mike Walden. And who else we got? Richard's on, and I'm going to the ones that are still at like 6:30, an hour and a half before we even went live. J.R. Griffith, hello, brother, and Brian. Ellen is here. Gary Lynn. Gary, you are full of questions today, brother. Okay, so yeah, ask your questions. In the front of your question, please put question. All right, so we can we know what to be looking for. We have Julianne in the background. She is the coordinator. She's waving, but nobody can see it, Julianne. Okay, I'd have to pop her out, but I don't have the permission from that. She'd have to say yeah or no. Darcy's here. I don't remember Darcy. Hi, Darcy. And Howard. I got a bunch of friends here. See anybody you know? Have you seen anyone you know in here,
Oh,
Mark?
I've seen a lot of people in there. I know Jack in the shop.
Yeah.
John Thompson was in there. Oh my gosh, Chris Gallagher. I feel like
Woody.
that. I feel like that hostess on Romper Room in the morning, and I see
Yeah.
David, and I say Julie Frank, and and Wendell. That's WXXRYY.
Okay.
A lot of folks out there. Oz Guzzy. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Bill Ivan. Okay. Well, I mean, so before we jump into questions, what's going on? We are in December, by the way. It is Christmas time, and I would love to know what people are making for Christmas, because this is when everybody's cutting up them Christmas projects and making things for family. I am going to be making a card holder, like a playing card holder for my niece Isabel. She had cancer. As you know, IDC Woodcraft donates to St. Jude. And I do that because when she was 6, she had cancer, brain cancer, and they had to cut it out. She lost the use of her right arm. So, and our family plays tons of games. So, I'm making her a very special card holder this time. I'm going to carve it out. So I have to get designing on that sucker. I got got a letter from St. Jude today. They thanked me for the $6,000 donation we made this quarter.
Sweet.
Brothers and sisters, IDC Woodcraft, because of you supporting this company here, we've donated $22,000 so far this year.
Beautiful.
I'm,
Beautiful.
I'm shooting for 30K.
Well, speaking
See?
personally, as a man who has a niece who also was treated at St. Jude's, I say thank you for that.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you very
welcome.
much.
You're welcome. Yeah, the hardships you see it firsthand when you're in that. Yeah, and St. Jude contacted me, by the way. They want IDC Woodcraft to be a sponsor in Indiana.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. So what's weather like up in Oregon?
Wet, cold. I mean, it's
always
Oregon.
wet.
It's Oregon weather. I mean, it's we got 4 inches of rain in November. It just took all month of November to get those 4 inches. That's what happens.
It's a lot of rain. That's a lot of rain. Let's pop into some questions. We got 12 of them. All right, let's see what we got going on. First one is from, we got Richard, epoxy question. This is for you because I've never done epoxy. I want to pour a clear epoxy in a 4x4 pocket 1/2 inch deep over a 3D carve inside. Do I pour in 2 lifts or a single pour? How long do I wait for the second pour? So fire away, Mark, because I have never touched epoxy.
I'm going to give you the answer nobody wants to hear, and that is it depends. It depends on the epoxy you use. If it's at all possible, get over to the manufacturer's website, the epoxy manufacturer's website, and they should have either a tech sheet or a set of instructions or both. Look at the instructions, download the instructions, because, for instance, I use several different epoxy manufacturers depending upon what I do. I'm going to be using deep pour epoxy for one project I'm doing. And they say on the website, you can pour up to 2 inches. But it depends on how big of a casting it is, because right here, I've got the instructions in front of me. When your projects are greater than 6 inches wide, you can go up to 3/4 of an inch per pour.
Oh, really?
Then you have to wait 6 hours to let it gel and cool down. Then you can pour another 3/4 of an inch. Well, I'm getting ready to do a 14-inch diameter casting, so I'm going to have to do it in layers, even though it's a deep pour epoxy. And that's simply because if you try to go too deep, it will overheat and crack.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where most cracks come from. So whoever the epoxy manufacturer is, go to that website for that specific resin and download the instructions. It's usually a PDF file. Download those instructions and follow them. Most epoxies you can pour within 48 hours. If you pour another layer, you're fine. If you wait more than 48 hours, you need to sand between pours with some 220 grit.
So you want to pour when it's still tacky?
Yes, when it's still a little bit gelled or a little bit tacky. Now, on my particular epoxy that I'm pouring, I have to wait 5 to 6 hours between pours, or until the epoxy is cooled and is no longer in liquid form, it says. I'm reading right from the instructions. So
interesting. Yeah, I haven't touched epoxy yet, so got a whole new thing to learn. I can't decide whether it's epoxy or I start learning laser. I think I'd kind of like to go with laser, since I've got a laser CO2 sitting here that hasn't been touched in quite a while.
Yeah. I mean, sure. It's
It's there.
Yeah.
All right,
that's a lot to learn, believe me.
Yeah. All right, Richard. That was the same question there. Sorry, take that one back. Get that one out of there. There we go. Gary Lynn is talking. Okay, Gary, the question is for you, Mark. He followed stock text and did rather well. I have a spindle. How do I do the tool changes with the G codes and M codes, stopping and starting the spindle?
Okay, my first question would be, Gary, is your spindle controlled by your software? If you have to manually turn it on before you run it, it'd be the same as a router. If it's controlled by the software, I have always put my G code into separate files. I don't save it all as one file. The same as a router. The only difference is, I'll load the G code for a roughing pass. and it would do the roughing pass, come back to home, and then shut down. And when the bit stopped spinning, do my tool change, set Z0, load the next G code, and go. It's basically just the same as a router. The only thing is I don't have to reach up and turn on the router.
Right.
I don't have an automatic tool changer. I have no plans on getting one because I don't need one. But it's more or less the exact same as using a router.
Yeah, if you wanted to use the M code, if you wanted to like put them all combined, run your G code one thing, you do have to use an M code between each one. And the M code, it's either M0 or M01. I think it's an M0, which is a temporary stop. And that would have to be in there where you want to do the tool change
Right.
at.
Yeah, it takes a person smarter than me to do this.
Mm-hmm.
If you know somebody who has similar equipment, then maybe they know how to create a post processor that will insert those M0 and M5s into the G code as it's calculated. So
Yeah.
it would take like your roughing tool path and then add an M0 for a temporary stop for tool change, and then you change your tools, set your Z0 for that tool, then go, and then it would take off for the next one. But
Right.
if you get a post processor created that will do that automatically for you, the thing you have to remember is when you set up your tool paths, get into your tool database and change the tool number for each tool.
Yes.
Each tool has to have a different number.
Yep, for sure. If you are doing, I'll just reiterate what Mark said because it's really important. When you have an automatic tool changer in your tool database, if you're using Vectric or any of the other software, every tool has to have its own tool number. Otherwise, it's going to, in your machine, your control, when you have a tool changer, that information is also there as well. And so it's all got to match up. And I just forgot the rest of what I was going to be saying. So,
well, the Vectric software will allow you to do that. You can put all of your tool paths into one G code file as long as they have different tool numbers in your from your tool database.
right.
And
right.
but check, because for instance, if you're using Mach 3, there is a Mach 3 post processor for automatic tool changer. And it will automatically put all of those commands, those M commands in there, and stop for tool change. And you change the tool, set your Z0, and then run from here, or cycle start G code, and off you go.
Yep. If you've ever opened up a G code, you'll see a T number like T1, T2, T3. That's the tool number. Now, what Mark is talking about with the post processor, you can have a post processor made in any way you want to. You can even edit the post processor that you use with the post processor editing software. Post processor is a very simple program. It just tells the G code how it needs to be written, that certain things need to be inserted into it.
Right.
And on that note, at IDC, the database for the Vectric, you can get that off the website for the Vectric software. And every tool that is listed in there has an independent tool number. So that's all taken care of for you if you get the database. It's free. You go to idcwoodcraft.com. At the top on the menu bar, it says database downloads. You can get it for Vectric, and it'll work in all the Vectric software, Cut2D, vCarve, and Aspire, Carveco, Fusion 360, and Carbide Create. So, yeah, it's fully populated database. When you get your Vectric software, it's they throw in a few in there, but it's not much. All right, let's see what Gary has to say. Gary,
that's the same one.
I didn't unstar that one. Okay. That's twice now. That's 2 for 2. Rip City Concepts. I don't know who this is, but I love the name. Love the name. Question: what's the difference between a V-bit and an engraving bit? How do they differ when generating a toolpath?
Generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, a V-bit goes to a sharp point at the tip. An engraving bit comes down at, let's say, a 15-degree engraving bit will come down almost to a point, but it has a flat at the bottom of a specific width. So I have seen people enter, for instance, a tapered ball nose bit as an engraving bit, and that does work for certain types of projects. But the way it the difference in the way it calculates a toolpath is with using that engraving bit, it takes the width of that tip into account. So it may shift things over, shift the cut over slightly to compensate for that width. If you're cutting to the outside or the inside, it'll shift to the left a little bit. If you're cutting straight on, it'll put that flat right over the center of that vector. So it's entered more or less in the same way a form tool is entered into the database. You need a cutting length and the side angle, and then the width of that tip up to the center line, and it will fill in the rest of that information for you. But basically, that's the most basic difference is an engraving bit has a flat tip where a V-bit has a pointed tip. So,
yep. A lot of times people refer to the tight angle bits with that come down to a point as an engraving bit as well. But,
and you can enter them as engraving bits, but if it's specified as an engraving bit, usually there's a flat point there, flat tip there. Not always, but usually.
Right. All right. And then you have your diamond engravers or your drag bit drag bits, and a diamond bit would be considered an engraver. Would you consider that an engraver?
That is,
it is an engraving tool.
Yes, it is an engraving bit, but it's considered a specialist bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At IDC Woodcraft, we consider that engraving. So, but yeah, that'd be specialist, a special bit. Okay, Gary Lynn, got you another one from you. Your next project is doing the round cookies that will be V-carving Bible verses on them. Have you heard of drying the rounds in a microwave to speed drying time? That's an interesting one. I've never heard of that. How about you, Mark?
I heard about that in the 90s in some of my woodworking magazines. Pre-internet, everybody, I think, was subscribed to Better Homes and Gardens Wood, Rodale Press, and a few others. But more in reference to turning blanks. There are people who would put a turning blank into the microwave, run it for 2-3 minutes, pull it out, let it cool off, put it in for another 2-3 minutes. I tried it with just a flat piece of stock, and it did work, but it was really weird in that it almost gives the wood an almost plastic consistency.
Interesting. Even after it's set for a while?
No, after it sets for a while, it goes back to normal, but you just take it out of the microwave and you could literally kind of twist it or bend it.
Okay.
That's another problem, especially with cookies, is it's going to crack, it's going to check because you are speeding up that drying process. Basically, if it's you got cookies, I don't know how thick they are, Gary. Wow. There is no catch-all answer. If you don't have a moisture meter, just know that they're probably going to crack and split.
But you know what? You can always give it a try.
Yeah, you could always try
it. See what happens. I'm gonna do it. For those of you who don't know what a cookie is, It's when they take like they'll
limb.
cut a cross section of a tree or a branch, so you're looking at the rings of the thing like that, and basically it's just taking a chunk out, cross cutting it, and it's flat. Yeah. So,
but don't run it for more than say a minute and a half at a time, and give it time to cool down, because the way a microwave works is it makes the moisture, it excites the water molecules in whatever it is you're trying to cook, and that can cause more cracking or even possibly an explosion. So, if there's a pocket in there, a pitch pocket or something like that you're not aware of, there could be some issues. Personally, I don't know. I didn't like the process. It did dry it out, but you're not going to get the same result as if you had kiln dried lumber.
Yeah.
So
that'll be interesting. I will put one in my microwave just to see what happens, and I'll stand far away from it.
I wouldn't do it for more than 90 seconds at a time and give it a chance to cool off in between times.
Right. Okay, cool. That's an interesting question. I will look that up. I'll do a little research on that one. Howard, what's going on there, brother Howard? When using IDC keyhole bit, can you plunge in on the line of travel, go across, and then pull the bit straight up and out, making the entry hole on each side? Okay. I actually never thought of that in my things, but yes, you can. I'm looking at it right here, and the camera doesn't do any justice. But the cutting blades on the T of the bit, they go all the way up. It's a brazed bit, so it goes all the way up to the top there. And this is as much of a cutting edge here on top of that T as it is on the bottom. So yes, you can plunge down. Here, we'll do it like this. We got one right here. There, Mark brought out the home sweet home sign.
That'll work.
Yep, you can plunge down in this side here, and then come across and slowly come out. It's going to come out in a plunge rate. So that's the thing we have to be sure of, that it's coming up in a plunge feed. So you don't want it to wrap it out, because if you're wrapping it out, then you're gonna chip away that wood. You're gonna pull it away.
Yeah.
So I released a video the other day that talks about doing this, the keyhole bit, how to program that up in the Vectric software. Now you notice mine is horizontal. Other people like to do them vertical. So when you do it vertical, your keyhole, it'll start down at the bottom and go up and then come back down. So, but the reason I like to go horizontal is because maybe I just don't trust myself in making sure I get dead center, because you want to be dead center, but that's it. And that's the sign that we did. And I have been asked to do a video on this. So if anybody wants to know how I've come up with this shape, it's actually quite easy to come up with this kind of contour. But it just takes knowing how to play with the software. This is made with rectangles and circles. That's it. And radiuses.
Yep.
The whole thing is done that way. So yeah, put a comment down in the make a comment. Tell me if you want me to do a video. What we're going to say, Mark?
Well, generally speaking, I don't save G-code because I know my luck. So I create the G-code, I run the project. When it's done, that G-code gets deleted. But I also made I made a 2-inch wide horizontal keyhole toolpath, and I made a 1-inch tall vertical keyhole toolpath with X, Y, Z, 0 set to the center of that keyhole. And that is the only G-code I save. So whenever I have a project where I want a keyhole, I'll just clamp the piece down to the table, figure out where I want that keyhole, put a little cross right there in that spot, and that's where I set my XYZ 0, load that G-code, and cut my keyhole.
Right.
And so I don't have to do it on every project. It's right there. It's done. And it just depends on the type of project. If it is. If it's something fairly narrow, I use a vertical keyhole. If it's something fairly wide, like your sign, I'll do a horizontal keyhole.
Okay. Okay. So someone asked what the font this is, and it is Vivaldi. Vivaldi. Vivaldi.
Okay.
The font that's on my on this welcome sign, or this home sweet home
Sweet
sign.
home. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks nice. It looks very nice. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so I can run through this real quick, so how quick and easy this is. Let me just get back to the screen here. Really, all I did was I purchased swirls off of some site, probably Etsy. Cost me like $2 for a whole bunch of different swirls in one file, and then I made a rectangle. And what I did was on the rectangle, then I created a bunch of circles. Actually, I just did like one quarter of this. And I created a circle above here, a big circle that crossed over the rectangle. We got another little one right here that crossed over the rectangle, another one over here that crossed over the rectangle. Then I just started snipping, and until I got this shape on one corner. And then I mirrored this quarter over that side. Then I joined this line here using the join tool, and then I mirrored this from top to bottom, and then joined that again. And so it's that easy. It's just being a little creative with the software. And
Right.
this line right here, this outline, this profile design, is simply an offset of the outside. It's using the offset tool. And then the swirls here were done by using the trace tool, and then the text is text. And I just put it in 3 different places. I twisted the suite a little bit to give it a little bit of balance. And this is probably about 10 minutes worth of design work.
But that little detail of twisting the word sweet just a little bit off center is what separates you from everybody else, because not everybody would think about doing something like that. It's that little bit of extra style that makes you stand out.
Yeah. Get creative with the software. Don't think you're limited to what, horizontal and vertical. You can have lots of fun with things on the software.
If it's okay, Mike Luter asked, why do I get rid of the G code if I'm making the same 3 times in a row? You don't have to get rid of the G code. I just choose to delete my G code once I'm finished with it, because I know me. If I don't, I'll want to reuse that G code. But I also know that I've probably changed the thickness of my material, or I've changed a bit that I want to use, or I've made some sort of modification. So rather than risk destroying a $100 piece of material, I'll just load that file up again and, double check, triple check, regenerate the G code. Takes all of a few seconds, and then bring that new G code out. Now, obviously, if you're going to be making 6 or 7 of an item within the same week using the same material, then of course you want to reuse the G code. But I'm not a production guy. I'm a weekend warrior, and I may make the same project twice in a year. I'm going to forget more than I remember about that project, so I don't take any chances. I just delete the G code, calculate new G code based on the new material that I have.
Yeah, yeah. I'm totally with Mark. I know there's a couple projects that I will make on a regular basis, but not that often. Maybe once every other month. I got a welcome sign that once in a while I cut again, and so I know that program works. So I don't worry about that G code. But everything else, I'm just like Mark. I don't remember. Right. That's one of the reasons I put the setup sheet, the checklist together.
Yep.
Right. The 4-point checklist. Most CNC projects, whether we're breaking bits or it dives into the project, other errors that come up, is most of the problems are due to something you miss in a setup. Right. And so that's why I came up with the IDC Woodcraft setup sheet, and I had Mark double check it, and he kept sending it back. Said you're missing this, you're missing that. So if you want the setup checklist, you can go to IDC Woodcraft .com, and there'll be a pop-up that comes up, and you can get it from that pop-up. And it's got instructions that tell you what every check in this thing is for.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer and a major fan of checklists. I write everything down. And you can see on my monitor behind me right there, I also have big signs on the top and bottom of the monitor to remind me to use the stinking checklist. Because it's great to have it, but if you don't look at it, why bother?
Yeah.
Use the checklist.
Yeah, I'm one. The best example I come up with is pilots. They use checklists to keep your planes from crashing.
Yeah.
Right. We use our checklist to keep our projects from getting ruined.
Yeah. I mean, I was an aircraft mechanic. You didn't go to the bathroom without a checklist. I mean, that was just life.
Right.
You did everything by checklist because lives were on the line.
Yeah. So IDCWoodcraft.com. Number one, you can get the Vectric database if you're using Vectric, Carveco Fusion 360, or Carbide Create, and you can also get this checklist. So, okay, Gary Graham. Hello, Gary. Question, please. Do most of you folks use limit switches? Oh, limit switches. So limit switches are used when you have a homing sequence on your machine. And in my school, I don't use limit switches unless I'm doing production work and I have multiple stations on my machine. So the limit switches, I'm assuming we're talking homing switches, all right? And that's going to set a master reference point for the machine, so you can use your different work offsets like the G54, G55, up to G59. And so that's when you want to have limit switches. If you plan on reproducing in multiple different locations on your machine, then yes, you want to have limit switches. But if you're going to make a onesie twosie type of thing, it's not really necessary. But what's your school of thought, Mark?
Well, my first CNC router, I did not have limit switches. And I mean, every piece of material I put down, I was setting X, Y, and Z 0. Great. It works fine. Limit switches are basically there to give you a little bit of a safety margin should you be rapiding back so you don't ram into something and crash, your gantry or something like that. It's the same physical switch, but they can also be used for homing so that the controller or the control software knows where the center of that spindle is. My second CNC, I added limit switches, but I still didn't use homing all that often. They were all set up, but I thought it was overcomplicating things. Now, you can run a CNC forever and never use limit switches. But if you're going to use a touch plate, you should use homing and limit switches. If you're going to set up work locations, like I've set up work locations on my table, I haven't set an XY0 in about a year, simply because I have a known location on my table. I can put that piece of material there in that location, mount it, set my Z0, go into G55, and I'm ready to go. I can take that piece of material off, take it in the house, bring it back outside the next day, put it right back in that same spot, set my Z0, and go. It knows where it is, but it can't do that without homing and limit switches.
Right, yeah.
Are they necessary? No. Yeah. But they really are. Once you experience using them, you'll never go back.
Homing switches are nice. You can have them because you always have that reference. The machine will always have a reference point. Because if it's set up to go home when it turns on, it's doing that because it needs to know where it's at.
Right.
And in my machining days, metalwork, we had the homing sequence on our CNC lathes and mills, and then we also had limit switches. So on that note, your limit switches are going to designate the furthest limit that the machine is going to go. When it triggers that switch, it's going to stop.
Right.
So you got a couple things in that some people have asked me, and you probably have seen this and gotten this question too, Mark, is they'll get this alarm. I think it's alarm number 2, where the machine will not start the G-code cycle because we're asking it to travel beyond its internal set limits.
Right.
So if you have a Z stroke of maybe 4 inches, and that Z is going to travel up 4.1 inches, that code is the machine. It's not going to run because it sees that it's going to be traveling beyond that limit.
Right.
Yep. So that's a preset limit in the brains of the machine, and
Right.
then and that's also based on the homing sequence. So if you don't
And
have a homing,
there are certain things in Mach 4 that I can't access until I home the machine. It just won't even let me into the screen. I can't use my touch plate. I can't do a lot of things. I can't jog the machine. I can't do anything until I've run that homing sequence. And all I do is I bring my gantry all the way forward, move my X all the way over to the left, and hit home X, Y, Z, and it takes about 15 seconds to do, and it's done. Another advantage of using homing switches is in you're 2/3 of the way through a project and the lights go out, the power goes out, I can just start right back up, send it right back to that known location, and then scroll through the G code until I'm roughly where it left off, and then go, just start and go. I just don't have the problems I used to have when I wasn't running homing and limit switches.
Right. Yeah. Recovering from a lost location is a challenge when you don't have the homing sequence. You'll also see some on occasion, if you have this in your machine, is soft limits. Right. So soft limits are the same thing. It's where the machine is set so that from that home location, it will not travel past 24 inches if the soft limit distance on your machine is 24 inches. It'll come up with an alarm, even though it can travel past that distance. It is hard programmed into the control. And then there's going to be hard limits, and hard limits are your physical point at which it's got to stop. Otherwise, you'll crash. So it's a good little discussion to have.
Oh yeah. Are they required? No. You can run that machine for the rest of your life and never need those switches, but they sure are nice.
Yeah. Yep. I've got limit switches on my long mill, but I have them disabled because I don't use it.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see what we got here. Mike, so we're at the 21 questions right now. So it's from Mike Walden. Hey, Mike, question from Mark. How do you finish profile pass when doing a 3D carve?
A finish profile pass? Basically, that would be part of your finish tool path. It's not necessarily a profile pass per se, but that's part of the tool path. If you're looking for it to come around and clean up an edge, there's no way of doing that. It carves the model to the limit that you set within that finishing tool path. That I can't think of a way to get it to do a profile pass, a separate profile pass. Unless you're talking about cutting something out as a part of a profile tool path, in which case what I do is in the profile tool path, I will set a separate last pass with an allowance of 0.010, so 10,000ths of an inch. And what that does is it cuts almost all the way through the material, then lifts out of the material, moves in that 10,000ths of an inch, and does one final cut the entire thickness all at once. So it's a nice smooth cut, and that works very well.
I have a question on that. So you're doing a profile. I'm going to look at the toolpath for a second. On that,
Okay.
on a profile toolpath, and you have the. I'm going to bring it up on the screen because this
Okay.
is a part of the Vectric software that I've had a question on. So I think Mark just answered it.
Okay.
So that's where I was trying to determine what that specific font was. So if we're doing a profile toolpath.
Okay.
And so if I do a separate last pass, is that where we're setting that up
Yes,
at?
that's where we're setting. Do separate last pass.
Okay, which is about halfway down.
And then in the allowance, set the allowance. Now you do have a end mill there. You should be able to set the allowance.
Okay, for some reason it's not
Or is that
allowing me.
grayed out? Okay, you may have to be either cutting to the inside or outside.
Oh, okay. So we'll go inside. Okay. Yep.
Yes, there you go. And
Okay. So what will happen here is if I set that allowance and I set it 0.1 inch, it'll offset outside that or further in since I have inside selected. It'll cut in by that 0.1 to a certain point, and then it will come in the last pass. It'll clean it up.
Well, yeah. If you don't mind, I'll bring up mine and draw a
Yeah.
real easy vector out here,
Okay.
and kind of show you. Let's present screen, entire screen. Boom. There we go. Okay. Am I flickering on you? Oh, okay. There we are.
Julianne's in the back driving, and then I'm driving too. So you just drive, Julianne.
Okay. All right. So we'll go over here to the profile. Well, let me select my vector. Go to the profile tool path, and my cut depth Z equals okay. And I've got 1/4 of an inch end mill, and I'm going to cut to the outside.
Okay.
I'm going to do a separate last pass with an allowance of 0.01. Okay. Then I will calculate it. And now when I zoom in here and take a look, let me get it over this way. If we come in and we look at this tool path. All right, there we go. These first two are going to be cut that 10,000ths of an inch oversize. Then if we look in here real close, we can see a green vertical line and a light blue vertical line. That light blue vertical line is a plunge. The light green vertical line is a retract. That first blue line, it's going to come down and cut this way, drop down again to the next level, come around and cut that way. Then it's going to lift up, move in that 10,000ths of an inch, then plunge all the way down and cut the whole thing 10,000ths of an inch, the full depth. And it will
going to clean it up. Okay.
And clean up that edge. Get rid of any witness marks. Get rid of any you see the lines where they can see each layer it's cut down. It can be used in conjunction with tabs. It just smooths everything out, gives it a nice clean cut. I see a couple questions over there that dovetail in perfect with this. Should use an upcut or a downcut. A downcut bit is going to give you a better top surface because it's slicing those wood fibers down. But it's going to give you a splintered bottom surface. A upcut bit is just the opposite. It's going to give you some tear out and splintering on the top surface, but give you a nice clean bottom surface. And a compression bit will give you both. It's the best of both worlds. But as a matter of just practicality, pick which is the most important side and use the bit that's going to give you the best surface.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a downcut bit's going to give you a better top surface, an upcut bit's going to give you a better bottom surface. So,
Yep. All right. Well, thank you for that. I just
you're welcome.
Got an education myself. All right. Let's pop that out and go to Joe. We got Joel. Any tips on speeds and feeds for cast acrylic would be great. So, what do you use in cast acrylic?
I've never cut cast acrylic. I've not gotten there yet. I did attempt one time when using a router, and the bit was just spinning way too fast. I mean, I was very new. I think maybe my second project. And all I succeeded in doing was ruining a 1/8 inch end mill. You know, just welded a bunch of plastic to that bit, and it looked like a, you know, an acrylic carbide lollipop, and that just. So no, I don't have any speed and feed recommendations. Generally speaking, that's down to the bit. I have since bought an acrylic bit, and I'm going to follow the feeds and speeds as recommended by the manufacturer for that bit.
Yeah.
So I just haven't done it yet, so I can't tell you if that worked or not.
Okay. So the IDC would, I don't have it in my head right now what the feeds and speeds are for that, just because I haven't looked at them in a while, but I'm going to bring it up. Again, on the IDC Woodcraft website, you can download the entire database of all the IDC Woodcraft bits. So everything you're seeing there is all IDC Woodcraft. And for the, first of all, you don't want to necessarily use end mills for acrylic. You want to use your single flute bits, like the O flute bits. And is my screen flickering on you?
No.
No? Okay. 1/4 inch, so we're going at 40. I got 45. You can go quite a bit faster than 45. I'll have to check that out. It's been a while since I did that. I think you get up to about 65 to 70 with a 1/4 inch, and probably the same with the 1/8 inch, which I got 60 there, and the 16th. Oh, sorry, that was backwards. The 16th was 45. The 1/8 inch was 60, and the 1/4 inch was 80 inches per minute. And RPMs, you want to run that about 19,000. I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry, I dropped that out here. Let me get back to that. It's been, like I said, it's been a while since I've done that. So your RPMs, generally, you want to be at about 19,000. Now, that might be a little fast. I'll have to go back and check those numbers because it's been a long time on that. The thing you want to watch for in cast acrylic is if the plastic, as it's cutting, if you're getting these little hairs, like long hairs along the edge of the plastic, that means you're going still a little slow, because when that bit's rotating back around, that plastic is sticking to it. And so you want to increase your feed rate or lower your spindle. So just so everyone knows, we were at 8:48 hour, 50 minutes in. At top of the hour, right now we got 19 questions. If you have questions, pop them in the next 5-ish, 10 minutes, because we'll stop taking questions after that, so we can catch up with everything. All right, David, can you dictate tool paths in Vectric? I have 4 vertical lines. Vectric started with the 4th line top to bottom, the 3rd top to bottom. On lines 1 and 2, it continues top to bottom. So what he's looking for is he's wanting to go like this. Mark is wanting to go back and forth like that, and then come back in here, plunge down in, and go back and forth up.
Yes, you can dictate them. Let me do a quick drawing here. And then
I have the same question. Yeah, I have the same question.
Let me go ahead and share screen again. Boink. Okay, I've got, I'm drawing some lines here, and they're not going to be pretty, but in the interest of hurry up. All right. If, for instance, you want to you want this to go in a specific sequence when you're calculating a, let's say, a profile tool path with you're using a V-bit. All right. Let me go into the profile and we'll go 0.0625, a 16th of an inch deep, and I'm going to use a 15-degree V-bit. Boom. Okay. And I'm going to carve on the vector. Now we're going to come down here to where
Mark,
it says.
you're not sharing the screen.
I'm not sharing? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I'm sorry. I thought I was sharing. I thought I was sharing. My mistake. I didn't hit the last button. Okay. I'm doing a profile tool path. I'm going to cut a 16th of an inch deep on these 4 vectors. It's going to do it in one pass. On the vector, we're just fine. Now, if I come down here to ramps, I can come over here to order. I can select left to right. I can select bottom to top. I can select the grid. I can select the shortest pass. I'm going to select left to right and vector selection order. So then I'll come over here and I'll select this. Then I want to select that one, select this one, select that one. Now you notice I have start points. The green nodes are my start points. They're at opposite ends. That's going to make this cut start here, go this way, then jump over and start here and go up that way. Then jump over here and go this way. If I don't want it to do that, I'll close it, select all of these, tap in to go into node edit, and I'm going to make my start points all right here. So click on that node, right click that node, make start point. Right click this node, make start point. Now my green start point is down on the bottom on all 4. Tap the letter N, go back into my profile toolpath. Go back 0.625 is my depth. 15-degree V-bit is my tool. On the vector order, vector selection order, click off, and I want to start on my left, hold down shift, and just select them in the order that I want them to cut. Now, when I calculate that tool path, that's what it's going to do. It's going to lift up from this corner, and remember, light blue is a plunge. It's going to plunge down here. It's going to go carve that. It's going to retract. The red is a rapid move. It's going to come over here, plunge down, carve up, lift up, rapid over here, plunge down, carve. So you can control how it cuts within reason. So if you want it to cut short lines like the minute lines on a clock face, you could have it start and work clockwise if you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
So, oh, excuse me.
What about a pocket? So if you have multiple depths of cut in the pocket, or multiple levels are going down, it'll cut the pocket out, and then it'll. So we're going to pull you off the.
With
thing.
a pocket is a little bit different. Let me come out of that. And hello. For some reason, Aspire is not wanting to do anything. There. Okay. And delete that. Okay, let me get back over here and create a vector for a pocket. I'm ready when you are. Okay, with a pocket, so what was the question about it?
So multiple levels. So if you have if you're cutting a 1/2-inch pocket and you have a depth of cut of 1/4 of an inch, right? So the tool is going to come down. You're doing raster. We'll just say you're doing raster. So you're coming down to the 1/4 inch. It's going to go back and forth until it gets to the top, and then it'll pull out and come back to that corner again, the original corner, and go back and forth. It'll basically repeat. Can you?
Okay, let me see. Okay, I think I know what you're talking about. You want to go a 1/2 inch deep, doing 2 passes of a 1/4 inch.
Yeah,
With
but
a raster.
but the router bit will come back to the original position to go to the next depth.
Yes, it will.
Instead, yeah, you can't change that.
No, you cannot change that. It's gonna start at, for instance, at this corner if this is where the start point is.
So
about the only control you really have is the number of passes and whether you choose to have it do a profile pass or not. And it can do the profile first, last, or have no profile pass. So, and that just depends on the project. Sometimes I want it to, if I'm using a V-bit, I'll want it to do that profile first and then come in and pocket out everything with my clearance bit. If I'm using a pocket to surface a piece of material, I'll have no profile pass. So
gotcha. Okay. All right. Okay. So I saw a comment here later down. Something about Kate. Kate is not in tonight. She had a family obligation, so Mark has very pleasantly and generously filled in for her. I was trying to think of the word; it wasn't coming out. All right, let's get to another question. Yeah, we got 23 of them sitting out there. 22. Darcy, Garrett question: are you or do you plan on looking to get a Canadian distributor for various tools that you sell? Yes, I do. I've been wanting to for some time. I have other things that are on the plate. I'll just put it on Julian's plate to figure this one out. Yeah, of course, Julian solves everything. Yeah, it's. I want to do that. It's just not the simplest of project based on the size, the team that I have, and what have you. So, okay, we got
hey Donovan.
Yeah, and when is new bit changer going to be released? Okay, he's talking about the muscle chuck. All right, on the video I showed the muscle chuck, which is it eliminates the nut and collet system, and it's just one Allen wrench where you can loosen the Allen wrench, your bit comes out, tighten it back, put another bit in, and tighten it back up. It's like a 5-second tool change. That I expect to be released next week. Now, those on the CNC Insiders list, right? That's the email list, the IDC Woodcraft email list. When I release new products, when I can, they always get a discount as soon as I release them. So if you're not on the CNC Insiders, then when I release it, it's normal price. But if you're on the CNC Insiders, you have about 4 days, and that'll get you new products to you at a discount. In the description of the video, the CNC Insiders list is listed there, and other items are listed there as well. So, yeah, I'm kind of excited. I would have released the muscle. It's called a muscle chuck. I would have released it yesterday, but I wanted to wait to make sure I'm waiting on inventory, and I wanted to make sure that I got an email out to the CNC Insiders first, give them first dibs, because they always get first dibs. And Mark, every time I do that, they wipe me out. It's like I should know better right now or by now than to. I just kind of never know what kind of stock I need.
Well, they're not dummies. I mean, they're going to dive on it. You know, you got to strike while the iron is hot, because that discount ain't going to last forever.
Yeah, and I got the Badger coming out. That's going to be about 2 more weeks, I expect. That's a 1/8 inch roughing bit that people have asked me for. So That's a 1/8 inch diameter roughing bit, right? So for clarity, a roughing bit does not leave a pretty finish. It's designed to remove wood, right, really fast. And so for 1/8 of an inch, you can cut at a 1/4 inch deep at 130 inches per minute. And I was testing that out on ash. By the way, you have the Beast. Have you tried that thing out yet?
I have not cut anything. I have not been out here, been able to cut it. It's not going to focus. Come on. It don't want to focus. There is no such thing as finesse when it comes to this router bit.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, you are not going to get a beautiful finish with this. You're going to get a decent finish, but this is meant to remove material right stinking now, mister. And I'm here to tell you, you can take a look at this sucker and you can see this is probably one of the more aggressive bits you'll ever own. And yeah, it doesn't care. It just does not care. So make sure that's what you're after when you chuck that into the machine, because it'll do it. I'm here to tell you.
Yeah, we lost you there for a little bit there, Mark. You started to phase out a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, there's internet. You were just talking about the aggressiveness of the bit, and then
it is big time aggressive. That's what I mean. It was not designed for finesse. It was designed to move material now.
Yeah, it's kind of like comparing carving a piece of meat with a steak knife versus T-Rex carving a piece of meat with his teeth.
There you go.
Yep. All right, Dan. Badger, 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 Badger. We were just talking about that. Okay. He's singing the song, The Badger. The CNC Insiders are waiting for that as well. They get a 15% discount when it gets released for 4 days. So, CNC Insiders, if you want discounts on IDC Woodcraft tools when they come out, you got to get on that list. All right. Joel has another question. Trying to cut cast acrylic using a 0.015 radius, 10-degree taper. What is recommended speed and feed as well? I've never cut it with a cast acrylic with a taper, so I don't know. I'll have to test that out. Hopefully, brothers and sisters have answered that question for him in the comments. I have not looked at the whole feed, so hopefully they got it. All right, Windy City Smokers. I'd love to see what this guy makes. Mm-hmm. I'm almost guessing it's a bourbon smoker. Have you ever had a bourbon smoker?
No, I don't drink.
Okay.
I don't drink. I'm the cheapest date there is. Give me a glass of iced tea or a cup of coffee, and I'm a happy guy.
Do you like your steak?
Oh, well, good Lord, yes.
So you're not so cheap. All right. When should you buy business liability insurance when selling on Etsy? So number one, this is a question for an attorney or someone who specializes in that area. But I have heard this: if you're selling stuff that are like kids are going to be playing with, get your ass insured. I've heard that numerous times.
Yep. Another thing to consider, if you make anything for children, consult an attorney, because there is special liability there. Because, I mean, you may design it and make it with the purest of intentions, but you can't guarantee a kid isn't going to bite a piece out of it and choke on it. I mean, you really, really, really honestly need to consult with an attorney. I would also I would look at your homeowner's insurance policy and see what they will cover. Because if, for instance, the worst should happen and your shop catch fire for some ungodly reason, normal standard homeowners will only cover a certain percentage of your tools. That's considered an outbuilding, unless it's an attached garage, in which case it may be different. But that, if it's a separate shop like mine is, that's an outbuilding. There is limited coverage, not enough to pay for a new CNC and a new table saw and a bunch of other stuff. You may have to purchase extra insurance. They will also tell you if you need liability insurance for any other, if you have customers coming in and out, if one of them trips on a curb, you may need extra coverage for that. Talk to your insurance agent, check your homeowner's policy if you're operating off of your property, and check with an attorney on any other type of liability. Most attorneys will do a free consultation. Not all, but most will.
Right. Yeah. You also check with Etsy, see what their policies are. They've had to deal with this stuff, and they got a lot of stuff moving, and they have to have the resources out there for you as an individual to know what you should cover and what you shouldn't. So ask the pros. We are certainly not the pros, but that is what I've heard. It's kind of like when it comes to trademark. Some companies don't care. Other companies will come after you with guns blazing. Right. So it's
buddy.
Yeah. There was one quick question in there. Someone asked me if I owned a Carve Right. I do not own a Carve Right.
No, never used one.
Neither have I. Okay, Raul. I have a DeWalt 611 router. I wonder if I can change the chuck collet to an ER11 or an ER16. Thank you. That I don't know, but I can pretty much say most of the tooling like that, they're pretty custom when it comes to like DeWalt or Ryobi but what do you know?
There are some aftermarket tool companies out there that may make collets for routers. ER 11 or ER 16, but I'm not sure. There's a company called Precise Bits, and there's another company called Elaire Corporation, and they will even do custom collets for you if you really want to get into that kind of thing. But Elaire Corporation and Precise Bits, they do make collets for routers, the ER series collets for routers, but I'm not certain 100% on the DeWalt 611. I'm not really sure. So I can't say yes or no.
I would start with a Google search on that one.
Yeah.
All right. So we have Madra. This is Ellen. Hello, Ellen. How does that quick collet tool work? Oh gosh. I got one sitting over here. I'll go grab it. In the meantime, Mark, why don't you handle? We'll throw up Pat, and you can talk. You can read that.
Okay. Hey guys, I'm very new and I have a few questions. Why am I getting empty tool paths? Couple of reasons. When you say empty tool paths, are you talking about the tool paths in your preview, or are you talking about when you save G-code? If you mean empty tool paths in your preview, you have to make sure that, number one, the vectors are selected. If the vector is selected and you go through and enter all your criteria and click calculate, that should populate and calculate that tool path. If you're talking about when you save tool paths, you're saving G code, make sure you are checking the correct post processor. Generally speaking, it won't let you select these things if you're not. It won't let you even calculate a toolpath if you don't have a vector selected. It'll tell you no suitable vector selected, or it'll tell you no post processor is selected. There is also one other case where that can happen, where it looks like you're getting a empty toolpath, and that is if you're using the quick engrave toolpath with, say, a diamond drag bit or a very fine tipped bit. A quick engrave toolpath just scratches the surface, and if you try to preview that toolpath, it'll look like nothing happened because it's making such light scratches in the surface of the material. But I need a little bit more information to figure out what you mean by empty toolpaths, because usually if you've got your bit selected, you've got your vector selected, got all your other criteria in there, you would just click calculate and it would put up the toolpath. So, or calculate the toolpath rather.
Okay, thank you for covering, Marcus. I got get some stuff ready here.
Oh, I was river dancing like crazy over here.
Okay, so Ellen asked how the this muscle chuck thing works. So in your standard router, right, you have a collet. You've got a nut and you've got a collet. So by the way, folks, this is called an ER collet. Okay, this is what an ER collet style looks like. But we have a nut and a collet, and so we have to take the nut off, we have to take the collet out, we have to blow it off, and we have to put everything back together, put it back in, and then put our bits in. This is the muscle chuck. This is for the ER20 size, and it's a 1/2 inch diameter. And this has a taper right at the top here, and that taper matches the taper that's inside your router or your spindle. So I've got the PWN spindle here. I'm going to upgrade my long mill to a PWN, and I'll talk about this in just a minute. But what this muscle chuck does is it sits in there, it aligns into that, and I never take that off. The only way I change my bit is by loosening that hex screw there, and then take the bit out, swap, put the next bit in, and tighten that screw back down. And so that's how that works. So this would never come off your machine once it's on there. And so that the benefit is you don't have to take, you don't have this 2-piece system. You got a single-piece system. So IDC Woodcraft is about to release one for the Makita router. And just behind that, I'm going to release one for the ER20 spindle, which is this guy right here, the PWN spindle. And if you are considering to upgrade your CNC router from one of those Makitas or any 65 millimeter or 85 millimeter router, and you want to get to a spindle, Julianne is going to put a link in the description so you can check this out. PWN CNC has a plug and play spindle system set up for the long mill, for the Onefinity, for Millwright. There's a couple other machines where they've made it so literally all you have to do is plug it into the control of your machine, and then set up your box and you're ready to go once you get the spindle mounted on the thing, as opposed to doing a bunch of wiring and such. So I suggest that you kind of look into that, because this is where you don't have to turn the machine on and off anymore. The control software will take care of that for you. So
and I love my spindle. Once I got my spindle, I will never go back to a router.
Right. I've had this for this is water cooled. I've had this for about 3 weeks, but and too many other things going on for me. So I'm wanting to take care of that next week. I was planning on doing it this week. It wasn't going to happen. Anyway, so
I'll never go back to a router, and it's nothing to do with noise. It's everything to do with torque. Where if for instance you get into a particularly dense section of maple, you won't hear how a router will kind of start to bog down a little bit and then come out of it. You won't even hear that, because the minute the spindle feels more resistance, it applies more power and just goes right through it. You get much smoother cuts, much nicer cuts. I love it. I'll never go back.
Yeah. And the spindle applies more power because it's working 3-phase. When you get your PWN spindle, you will get a control box. And what that control box is designed to do is take the 2-phase or single phase that you have coming into your house, and it's going to convert it to 3-phase. And that 3-phase is what gives it the power. I won't go into the motor explanations, but that's the way that works. So yeah, and Julianne, she put in the link So you check
Yes,
out the people doing. It's a nice upgrade for your CNC router. All right, we still have 15 questions. Okay, doing good. What we got here? Daniel, Garrett, I finally made my first project tonight. Woo! I love to hear that. Yes, yes, yes. I don't have it stained, but I finally got my long meal to run. Long meal. It's all the same. Yeah, it's long mill. And I have seen people call them long board, long wood, long, lots of longs. It's pretty funny. But, brother, this is, and I know Mark feels the same way, is when somebody gets into this and they go through the challenge of trying to figure out what machine, what software, what router bits, and realizing you got to get all this stuff as you're moving along, and then you got to learn it. It's that first part that you get off, that first project you get off. It's like, that's where I get my reward when I know that part of what I have put out there has helped somebody, helped you.
That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about, man.
Yeah.
It really is. I love that.
Absolutely. All right. What else we got here? We got joke. All right, Garrett, I watched your keyhole video. Thanks for sharing it. What is the advantage over using the gadgets and Vectric? I'll put this on Mark after I answer this. The keyhole, first of all, Vectric, the pro versions of the software has these tools called gadgets. You can go get them. They're like plugins into the software, and you can do certain things like gears and spirals and keyholes. I don't use the gadgets for keyholes because they're so quick to design. It's almost a waste of my time to try to go get a gadget. It's drawing two lines or drawing one line back over itself. So that's my answer. It's just too easy to design to play around with keyholes. What's your answer, Mark? Because I don't know anything else that they have in there when it comes to the keyhole other than keyhole.
Well, pretty much the same thing. I did the video on the keyhole, how to create a keyhole toolpath without using the gadget, simply because folks who have VCarve desktop or Cut 2D desktop don't have gadget support. You have to either have VCarve Pro or Aspire. And at that time, a lot of people, I won't say a majority, but a good percentage of my viewers were using VCarve desktop. Now, a lot of them have since upgraded to other software. So now I'm just starting to get into gadgets and show people how to use gadgets. But that was mainly for the folks who couldn't use the Dovetail gadget. And again, Garrett's 100% right. It takes more time to tell you how to set up a keyhole than it does to actually do it.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things that there's more than one way to skin the proverbial cat. If you want to use the gadget, use the gadget. If you don't want to use the gadget, don't want to use the gadget. Sometimes there is no best. The best is just whatever you prefer.
Right. It's kind of like doing keyholes sideways versus up and down. That's just my preference to do them sideways. Yeah. Okay, we got a little donation from Jerry. It says just a small token of appreciation. So thank you, Jerry. Contributed to Mark and I helping here. And what he did was just below the video, you'll see this little money symbol where you can donate. And that's one way of saying thank you. But the other way of saying thank you is just by being here. But Jerry, thank you. That helps get us a burger and a beer. So absolutely, thank you. All right, we have Pat. He just bought VC Pro, and I also bought your bits, which are awesome. I've only done a couple things, and I'm still learning. I could use some advice and some help. Okay, so this is what I will answer. Is when we're asking that, we always need to be more specific, right? Because the breadth of what is in here and in Yeah, and in his head is so vast, and there's so many things to help on. So
Yeah.
always when you ask questions, please be specific as to what you're looking for guidance
Yeah,
on.
be as specific as you can, because that's kind of like asking, how do I cook?
Yeah.
What? How do you cook what? I mean, barbecue, sous vide, bacon and eggs.
But reach out, email at Garrett at idcwoodcraft.com, or you can reach out to Kate Tucker at womenwhocnc.com, or women who CNC, yeah, it's womenwhocnc at gmail.com is what she's set up at. And you'll get answers that way. It's much, you can do that, or through Facebook. All right, from Dion. Hey, Dion, how's it going? Question: 1/4-inch downcut end mill gets hot with pocketing and cutting out red oak. The spindle nut loosens and the bit pulls down and goes deep into the spoil board. Is there a way to stop this? So, yeah, one of the first things to know that is using a down cut, so it's having a down cut draw to it. It's trying to, no, a down cut is trying to push itself up. So, well, go ahead, Mark. What would you say in this one? And I can throw my 2 cents in.
Well, number one, make sure your collet and the shank of the bit are clean. And that means take the collet out of the collet nut. I use a little nylon, well, like a toothbrush or a denture brush, and isopropyl alcohol that I get real cheap at the local pharmacy. It's 91%. Scrub that puppy out, blow it off with compressed air. Make sure you're getting it snug. Make sure you're getting it in there tight. Make sure that collet is tight. Other than that, if the end mill is getting hot, one of two things is going on. Either your RPM is too high or your feed rate is too low, or a combination of the two. You should be able to, the minute that tool path stops and you turn off the router or spindle, you should be able to break that collet nut loose and hold that bit in your hand comfortably. It should only be a little bit warm. If that bit is hot, either your spindle router is going too fast, your feed rate is too slow, or a combination of the two.
Yep. And in effect, what you're doing is what he's saying is you're rubbing. The bit is doing more rubbing than anything. And a good giveaway right off the get-go is your chips. Your chips should not be dusty. It should not be powder. Powder is indicative of going too slow in your feed rate or too high in your RPMs. The other thing that may be happening is your collet could just be worn out. That happens, right?
Yes.
Collets do wear. And so maybe what you might want to do is replace that collet. If it's a Makita, then we carry the 1/8 inch, and we just got 1/4 inch Makita replacements in. So I'll have to get those. I'll get that on the website probably tomorrow.
Yeah, when you were holding up that water-cooled spindle a minute ago, somebody out here in the chat was calling dibs on the spindle, on the collet in that Makita you got back there.
Oh, okay. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah. Well, I will still keep I've got 2 long mills, right? So I will keep one ready with the Makita router, because there are still a lot of people that have them. One more thing about the collet: when you're tightening down your collet on when you're tightening your router bit, this was from my machining days. We tightened it and we got it nice and snug, but we didn't beat it with a hammer and try and get it even more tightened, because that's going to wear out your collet a lot faster.
Yeah. Somebody earlier was asking, should you use a torque wrench to tighten a collet? That's not necessary. That's not necessary. I mean, just snug it up.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. What do we got here? All right. So, Dustin, is there a way to edit the generated toolpath in Vectric?
G-code, no. The toolpath, yes. You can double-click that toolpath title and it'll take you right back into that toolpath form, and you can go back and edit, do whatever. The G code, no, you cannot edit it in Vectric. You can open it in either Notepad or Notepad++. A lot of people prefer ++, but I don't think it's really, for all intents and purposes, necessary. Notepad works just fine. But a lot of people there's a lot more options in Notepad++.
All right. Okay. And a shout out to Larry Brown, who gave us a $4 super sticker. Thank you, Larry.
Beautiful.
Contributed. Yeah, I love it. Love it. Don't forget to check down the description below in this video, and there are several links down there for you to check. One is if you want the setup checklist, right? The 4-point checklist, then down in the description, well, you just go to idcwoodcraft.com for that, and that'll be a pop-up will come on the screen, and that's how you get that. Get a checklist.
Use it.
And use it, yeah. Yeah, we screw stuff up because we try to think we can keep stuff in our heads. And as Mark said a few weeks ago, when I said the average person can keep about 3 things in their head, and Mark thought I was pretty darn good if I could do that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm jealous. I mean, I can't remember what I had for dinner last night.
Right.
There's no way I'm going to remember every step before I hit cycle start.
So you look at this, right? These are literally, we don't think about this, but these are all the steps that we follow when we're setting our projects up.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yep. And so we can't keep all that in our head, and it's too easy to get distracted.
Mm-hmm.
So get that checklist. All right. From David, will your muscle truck work with 1/8 bits? So this is, I have started to test it I've used it today with a 1/8 bit with a collet adapter, a 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch adapter. But I am not absolutely confident it's going to work that way yet. Not with the adapters that I have. So we are getting other adapters to try that out. So that's the best answer I can give you right now. We got Michael, Missouri. I just recently heard about precision collet that can be used in routers such as the DeWalt 611. Have you heard of these, and what's your opinion of them? E.g., do they work, or are they just a gimmick? So precision collet that can be used in routers. So, well, I mean, technically, you want all your routers to have precision collets, and they should come with precision collets. So you have to be more specific on what you're talking about as far as the brand, where you heard it from, what it's supposed to do. Any thoughts, Mark?
Yeah, there is a company called Precise Bits, and that is what they do. They make precision collets. They have real tight specifications on run out specifically within the taper of the router. They're pricier than a standard replacement collet, but not outrageously so. But I'm not sure what brands they do. I am not sure what brands they have. You would have to go to, I believe, probably precisebits.com. But if you look up Precise Bits on Google search, you'll see their website and be able to get it. Get over there and take a look anyway.
Yeah, there are several different collet companies out there that do this, and they have to make them to certain tolerances, because the number one enemy when it comes to metal machining is well, there are many enemies, but run out is one of them, right? And so your collets need to be true, and run out is when the router bit is not absolutely true along that axis. So it may be leaning like that, exaggerated, and that means it's going to be spinning around like that.
Just a little bit of wobble, yeah. And I mean but you also have to remember that we're using routers that were never made to run for as long as we run them. They were not designed for CNC work. They were meant for you to put in a round over bit and maybe do an edge, and then shut it off and leave it alone for the next week and a half, unless you're working
Yeah.
in a production shop in which you use them quite often. So your DeWalt 611, the collet doesn't have to have a 4-digit resolution precision on collet run out. It's just not necessary. It's overkill.
It's we're woodworking too.
But when you're talking about putting it on a precision piece of equipment like a CNC router, you do need tighter tolerances. So, what can I say?
All right, we got a FHP design. Is there any fighting chance of cutting 3000 series aluminum on a long mill without having a mess of a failure on the finish? So I have cut aluminum on a long mill. I have not refined it, so that's kind of hard to say. Although I would say that you are coming to the limits of the machine when you're trying to cut metals on it. It's designed for wood, and again, you've got the trim router that you're using, which is not. When you're cutting metals, okay, metal spindle speeds are very different. They run much lower than what you would be cutting wood at. So I've tried aluminum. I've cut it. I did a nice 3D project. I've tried cutting some stuff on the side of it, and there are limits, and that was starting to reach its limits. I can cut brass a lot easier than I cut aluminum.
Yeah,
so
I'm not a metal guy. I'm a wood guy. I still think there's some magical mystery voodoo involved in metal work.
Right. Yeah, when you're talking CNC routers, right, when you're starting to talk metalworking, then we're starting to step outside of the range of what CNC routers are built for.
Yeah.
So, all right. Lewis, hi. For beginners like me, do you have information on which keys on the computers to press to make different functions we can use while programming, etc.? So, okay, so if you use your whatever design software you're using, right, there should be some shortcut keys. In Vectric, there are a ton of shortcut keys. And so if you go to the Vectric website, and I just type in Google Vectric shortcut keys, and you'll get that page. All right, then you can find all that. And so all your design software, the Vectric design software has it. As far as other stuff,
yep,
you'll have your Windows stuff. But
in Vectric, just go to Help. Keyboard shortcuts is the second thing down in the drop menu.
All right. Okay.
So.
Another shout out, Roger Day, $20. Thank you, Garrett, Mark, and Julianne. Another information Wednesday evening. Yes. Well, thank you, Roger.
You're the man, Roger.
Yep, it's our pleasure. With her permission, I would love to just pop her out here briefly to say hello. So everybody, okay, I got a thumbs up. So I would like to. This is Julianne. She's operating in the background, checking all the comments and making sure nobody's being nasty because she kicks them out. That's what I've told her to do, and making sure our questions are getting taken care of. So, Julianne is the person that's keeping the shipping machine oiled and IDC Woodcraft, and setting up systems and what have you, and keeping me organized and straight. She kind of wears the pants around here now.
Chief Whip.
I just have all the power.
Now she's spending my money. I mean, I might as well marry the girl. Good Lord.
Well.
All right. Okay. So anyway, I'll bump Julianne back in the background. She is back there. She's helping everybody helping us here, keep us straightened out.
Literally the person behind the curtain.
Yeah, literally. We're looking at her right now. She's looking at us.
Well, you are. I can't see her.
Oh, you can't see her. Okay.
Nope.
All right. All right. Here we go. Absolute Best Custom Wood Products. When importing a 3D image, what is the next step that is involved to get it into here? Okay, Mark, you want to run through that one?
The way I'm reading it is, what is the next step, or is it too involved to get into here? It's too involved to get into it here.
Okay.
Because you can go in any direction. Basically, Once you have the 3D model imported, you've already sized it, you've already placed it,
yeah.
you've already got all that stuff done. Now you got to start compiling. Is it a composite model? Is it part of a composite model? Is it on its own? Then do a figure out your carving limits, your machining limits rather, then do a roughing toolpath, then a finishing tool. There's a whole bunch of stuff. I currently have over 500 videos on my channel. Probably 30 of them deal specifically with carving 3D models. I mean, it's way too much to get into right here.
Especially now, we're coming up to the end of the evening too. So, yeah, I was starting to picture it. Okay, 3D model, and then I'm thinking, oh crap, you got your import screen, then you got the there's quite a bit involved. All right, let's see, HP design. Any advice for cutting 063-inch thick 3003? It's aluminum sheet, cut in signs and into shapes specifically. So that's just thin aluminum. So the thinner materials like this, you're not going to have a problem on a router, right? One of the things when you're cutting aluminum, if you're going to cut that's thin aluminum, so you can get away with it, right? You generally, aluminum likes to gall on your bit. So, and what that means is it goes into this gummy state. Right, and aluminum will stick inside your flutes like there's no tomorrow. And trying to get that out is nuts. And you're cutting this thin stuff. You're gonna be using a small bit. So number one, this is where we want to use a single flute bit, an O flute that's got a high angle of ejection on the flute, so the spiral goes up really fast. And you also want to pay attention to some sense of lubrication.
You'll also want an O flute bit with that huge open flute to evacuate those chips and take the heat with it right now. But even then, I'm not a metal guy. I'm going to be doing my first aluminum project later on next year, long after the new year. A couple of more things need to fall into place first. And I am not looking forward to this. However, the guys at Avid say, "Oh, you got this. It'll work. It'll be easy. It'll be easy." I'm like, "Okay." I've never cut 1/2-inch aluminum plate before. They're like, "Oh, you got this. Don't worry about it."
You can do that on the Avid?
Yes.
Okay.
So
I'll start to play with aluminum because I mean when I was doing metalworking, we didn't have single flute or O flute bits. We used standard end mills.
Yeah. But you also weren't turning at 16,000 RPM, were you?
No. There are specific speeds for everything. And metal is the same thing. So,
yeah, and that's where a lot of people get in trouble when they do things like that, is that they're trying to use that 4-flute bit in a router at 16,000 RPM, and you're just building up so much heat, you're just making a molten mess. And aluminum will weld up a bit faster than you can say boo.
Yeah, then that's the problem with aluminum with the high speed of routers, is it heats up that quick and it'll gum up your bit. And in our case, we will probably break the bit if you're using a 1/4 inch or less and you're trying to drive through it. So because it'll gall up and it can't cut anymore. All right. From Jimbo, good to see you, Jimbo. Do I still see a Makita on the long mill? Yes, you do. Yeah, I talked about that just before. I got the spindle here. It's been sitting here for 3 weeks. You know me though; it takes me a little time. So this is a pawn spindle, PWN CNC, plug and play unit for the long mill. And if you were thinking of upgrading, then you might want to check out PWN. Julian, throw the link back into the description again. And so, yeah. But unfortunately, it's still sitting there. I am looking at it, not liking that it's still sitting there. The box of parts is all sitting right over there.
I'm not saying nothing, Garrett, because you see that long piece of material on my spoil board right there?
Yeah.
It's been there since June.
Oh, really?
I got nothing to say.
Yeah. I bought a sheet of HDPE a year ago, and I haven't touched it.
I've got a 20 by 20 piece of HDPE right there that I've got to cut. But
And he's going to touch it.
this is my next project right there. I've got to get that done.
Very cool. Got another contribution? No. Nope, we already got it. That was Roger. Okay. And we have hit the bottom of the questions that have been starred.
Holy cow.
Well, there's been more questions, but
Yes, there have.
Off. Garrett, can I send you just have something from Jim? Jimbo, can you send the Silent Night G code I showed on the Long Mill channel? So sending me files is I generally don't unless I specifically ask for files. People send me files all the time. I'm pretty careful with files just because I got a business system here. I got to protect it.
Yeah.
But G code, sending me G code doesn't really do anything. If this is a troubleshooting question, then sending the G code file doesn't help us because there's so many numbers we're looking at it. We can't see what that bit is doing in the G code. I can read it. We can read it and know what's supposed to happen on that line, but to know exactly what's going on.
Yep.
So anyway, yeah, there we are. Yeah, we've kind of hit the end of the questions.
There was I've been chatting with somebody out in the chat who has been trying to get he's talking about getting notifications, subscribing to your channel and getting notifications. YouTube used to send out email notifications when you were going live. They don't do that anymore. They stopped doing that a while back. The best way to make sure you get a notification when Garrett posts a video or goes live is number one, subscribe to the channel. If you're not subscribed, shame on you. Subscribe. Number two, click that bell right next to the subscribe button. Then click it a second time and the drop down menu will pop up and hit all notifications. Then you have to make sure that whatever device you're on, be it a PC, tablet, phone, whatever, you have notifications from YouTube or from whatever browser you're using. You have to make sure that notifications are turned on because you may have done all that and then have notifications on your computer turned off. So you're not going to get any notifications. Once you've done all those steps, if you're still not getting a notification, now you got to kick YouTube's butt because you've done everything you can.
Well, here's the best notification. Every Wednesday at 8 p.m. sharp Eastern Standard Time.
There you go.
There's your notification. One of us will be here, and yeah, it's my mission to be here every week. We have missed 1 week. I have. So Lyle had asked, is the list? Is there a link for the checklist for the setup checklist? So go to idcwoodcraft.com. A pop-up will come up, and that's where you get the checklist from. What do we got here? Okay. Anyway, yeah. So there we are. So what are you going to do the rest of the evening, Mark?
Probably go in. It's 6:43 now here on the West Coast. Do you know where your children are? Boy, did I date myself just then. I'm probably going to go in the house and watch a couple of YouTube videos and get a bowl of ice cream.
There you go.
I love being retired.
What YouTube do you like to watch?
Yes.
What happens in the life of Mark?
Yes. I mean, I've gone down this rabbit hole where I'm watching people in Europe renovate and remodel old castles and old farmhouses.
Oh, that's cool.
Because the process of how the building process over there versus over here, number one, is fascinating to me. And number two, it's just, I mean, we complain about a 2x6 wall here. These people have 3-foot thick stone walls.
Yes.
That they have to try to work through and, pull a bunch of rock down to put up a lintel just to put in a door. It's fascinating stuff to me.
Wow.
It's
I can
great.
see that. I spent 3 months in Germany on work, and I was the hotel that I stayed at was a former castle. They didn't have air conditioning, but it's because they didn't need it. Literally the walls were that thick. You open the window, it's like you're leaning way over, and you still can't get to the ledge.
Yep, exactly right. We were stationed over in Germany in the 80s from 88 to 92. And it was fascinating stuff. I just love the difference in culture. I see somebody's asking what part of Oregon do I live. I'm near a town called Medford, about 30 miles north of the California border. So I can keep an eye on California from up here. So
All right. Okay. Again, down in the description are links with some of the things I talked about, and other things like some of the router bits that are very popular with IDC Woodcraft. I just get them out there. The vector database or Fusion Carveco Carbide Create on idcwoodcraft.com. You can get the database there. We talked about spindles. We talked about aluminum. We talked about keyhole bits. We talked about the muscle chuck, which is going to be released shortly. CNC Insiders get a discount when I release products like the new releases. So if you're not on the CNC Insiders list, that's down just in the description of the video as well. Get on the list because I'm getting ready to release 2 things that are coming up, and we're getting ready to work on a 3rd. So, yeah. Well, you always got to expand. I'm thinking about stocking order mask as well.
Oh, okay.
I'm debating on it. I haven't decided yet, but we use it enough.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
we all do. So
I've had mixed results with Aura Mask, but I think that's more my technique than anything else.
Yeah, I've learned some woods are like it, some wood doesn't, some finishes like it, some finishes don't. Sometimes I've had a bad batch too.
Yeah,
it just didn't stick very well. Maybe it's, I don't know. Who knows? All right. Well, with that, we are going to check out. Oh, wait. Next week, we are working to get Ray. What's his last name?
Kinman.
Yeah.
Ray
Tell
Kinman.
us about Ray. Tell us about Ray before we check out.
Ray Kinman is, if you look up artist in the dictionary, there's Ray's picture. Ray Kinman is a genuine bona fide Imagineer. He worked for Disney Studios for many years, hand carving much of the artwork that you see in Disneyland, Disney World. He's done all kinds of, we're talking not just museum quality, but unbelievable quality work. The man is just out of this world, and he knows his stuff. He knows what he's talking about, and he's just a general all-around good egg.
Yeah, I am looking forward to picking his brain about wood, the nature of different woods, and what have you.
Oh, yeah.
Ray Kinman is, I believe it's going to be next week. CNC Insiders will be notified about that too. Yeah. So, yeah, very excited. I am working diligently to get other people on board here. So people that are very experienced in the various fields that relate to CNC in one way or another. So as time goes on, we're going to be getting more and more people that have got a lot of skill.
Well, yeah, everybody has their own way of doing things, and sometimes it's great to get another perspective. So, it's you never know.
Go ahead.
You never know what you're going to learn, no matter how experienced you think you are.
Yeah. This guy doesn't do CNC. He's a wood carver by hand, right?
Both. He does have a CNC router, yes.
So that's as much as I know about him. He emailed me some time ago. We dialogued a little bit, but that's it. But he's got some beautiful work out there. I did look at his website. It's like this.
Oh man, this guy knows exactly what he's talking about and exactly what he's doing. If you bring your finishing questions, bring your painting questions and your finishing questions, because the dude is just absolutely phenomenal.
All right, looking forward to this one. All right, we're going to check out, brothers and sisters. And like I said, 8 o'clock sharp every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be, I will be here. Kate will usually be here. And if she can't, well, I'll have a talk with Mark's wife. And
I think she does it just to get me out of the house for a couple hours in the evening.
Right. All right. I'll say your goodbyes, Mark, and we are going to check out.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good evening.
See y'all.